To Good Morning Anambra Show. We thank you so much for joining us on our discussion this morning. And let me quickly let you know that there's this saying, popular one at that old age is a blessing, and everyone prays to get to an enviable age. You know, that's why when some aged parents die, we say they've gone to meet their maker. They didn't actually die. And some children are happy, you know, burying their aged parents, especially when they die at an enviable age. And so this day we have come with the topic World Day for Grandparents and Elderly. World Day for Grandparents and Elderly. And in the studio this morning I have Chizoba Nabo. Chizoba Nabo is the president, Civilization of Love Foundation. Good to have you in the studio.
Thank you, Noye. Always a pleasure to be here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And you look great.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Now, when we talk about grandparents and the elderly, who do we describe as a grandparent? We know that. And as an elderly person, who should we regard as that?
Well, there is no universally accepted definition of an elderly, but it seems to me that an elder is someone who has attained the age of 60 and beyond.
And beyond?
Yes.
You're not an elder because of your white hair. You know, I know that growing up, most times when you see someone with gray hair, you assume that person is an elder. Well, can I classify you amongst that because of your gray hair? Or your age has made you not to be classified as that?
Well, this gray hair is a gift from God.
Yours is wisdom. Okay, let me call it. Yours is wisdom hair. All right, now, I don't know why it is important to have a day, a particular day, you know, devoted to grandparents and elders. Why do you think it is so?
Well, it is a very important thing to mark this day. This day, in fact, is a day that we recognize and honor the strength and precious gifts of elders in our society generally, because of what they are to us and to our families and to society.
All right, we know that these days we see younger people becoming grandparents. You know, I've seen people of 40 years becoming grandparents, and people of some 38, some early 40s, some late 40s and 50s or thereabouts becoming grandparents. We have some of them around here. Now, how do we classify those ones? Because we are talking about grandparents and elderly. Do we look at grandparents that have reached elderly age or both?
Well, most of the elders are also grandparents.
Okay.
Yes.
But we cannot classify those younger ones as elders.
No, not exactly. They are grandparents.
Okay. Now, let's look at that when we were much younger, you know, how it is done. I know that in this part of the world, we don't have elderly homes where we take these elderly people to take care of them. So because of our culture and our values, you know, Igbo si na ihe eji amụta nwa bụ izocha nwa ka nwa zụọ gị.
Exactly.
You know, and that is why when a person or a parent begins to age, you know, he looks up to the children to take care of him or her.
Sure.
You know, especially having suffered over the years to raise these children. And when we see children honor their parents, you know, with that, taking care of them, we see children, you know, do so much according to their capacity and capability. Now, these days, a lot of people are so busy with life struggles, and some children are not really okay financially, let me say put it that way.
Yeah.
And as a result, it's like some of these elderly ones are neglected. And some of them are in pain. You know, I took care of my child and my child has abandoned me. So what do we say concerning what is happening today compared to what is happening before now as regards as taking care of these elderly people?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, in the first place, like you rightly stated, our culture is deeply pro-life and cherishes the elderly because of what they are to the families and societies. The elders, as we know, link us to our family heritage and faith. They are repositories of knowledge, of wisdom, and experience. And these serve as a guidepost to young generations. They also help, families, especially those who are in difficult situations, to even raise their children. They are important in so many other ways. Now, what I can say about what is happening in our society today, abandonment of the elderly is as a result of throwaway culture. You see, our people need to go back to recapture the old values. One of them is cherishing the elderly, just like you rightly said. In the olden days, people come to take their parents, into their homes and take care of them. But these days, there is this craze for materialism. And some people are looking for freedom, and they feel, oh, if I take my elderly parents into my home, I will not have the freedom which I should have, And some say, oh, they will not allow me to pursue my career or my business and all that. So we need to jettison all that. We need to imbibe a culture of relationship for which our people are known.
Okay, now there is something you said about being an embodiment of knowledge and knowing history, which I know that before now, when you see a younger person that is close to an elderly person, it seems as if the person is wiser.
Absolutely.
The person seems to be more knowledgeable about events of life. And what do you think the people of this generation will be losing in terms of knowing their root, knowing their history, as regards relating with the elderly? Because I know that most elderly people, they tell a lot of stories when you come close to them.
Sure.
And maybe probably in the process of telling a lot of stories, you can ask them, Papa, what is this? This happened, this, how? And the man will give you lowdown of everything that happened. So what do you think will happen when we fail to go back, as you said, in this relationship of elderly, younger generations?
Okay, you see, when we isolate the elderly, we disfigure the family. And we deprive the children, especially the grandchildren, the opportunity to get connected to their roots through the elders. So it is very important for us to maintain that close relationship. And that is why it is terrible for parents who try to isolate, the elderly, those who don't, in the olden days, when we were growing up, we experienced, going to the village. Our parents used to take us to,
grandma,
to grandma, to grandpa, and they enjoy seeing us, So in the same way, we encourage parents to keep doing that. Unfortunately, because of the throwaway culture, like I mentioned, and some false prophecies, some people who tell parents that, oh, your mom is a witch, your dad is a witch. You know, these stories scare the children because you don't expect a child, you know, to bond or be closer to somebody who has been described as a witch. So we need to go back to our values, you know, to try to take these children to their grandma and their grandpa, because by so doing, they will have the opportunity to tap the wisdom which the elderly have in abundance.
Okay, I think from what you've just said, could it be the reason we are having the kind of situation or the kind of lifestyle we see in some young people? For example, I remember growing up, sometimes a child will behave in a particular way. As the people will say, I'm proud of him, I know where he is from. And they will trace that person to the grandparents, you know, what he was able to achieve when he was much younger. And they will trace it to the parents of the person.
Yeah.
Now, do you think we are losing it? Because sometimes these days, you may see somebody believing a different lifestyle from what the family lineage has. I don't know if you understand where I'm going.
Okay.
You know, sometimes the Igbo are saying,
yes.
They call it abolo. Do you
Exactly.
understand? So now it seems that we are no longer seeing that as we should in the life of the younger people today. You know, some of them tend to toe their own path. Maybe they call your own a cake or something like that.
Yeah.
So do you see that happening in our society today?
Well, I guess you're talking about family culture.
Yes, you know, I think that
Yes.
do you understand?
Exactly.
As a result of that relationship from grandparents.
Yes.
And it goes on and on and on. Because the theme for this year's celebration says his message is from age to age or something like that. The
yes.
message of God is from age to age.
Yes.
So that relationship, do we see it being broken by the younger generation of today?
Yeah, I think so. It's not as strong as it used to be. Hence, the need to try to build that relationship. There is need for a constant dialogue between the older and younger generations. You know, elderly and grandchildren are at both extremes of life. And when there is dialogue between them, steady dialogue, it will help to grow our society. It will help to build a humane and fraternal society where all of us will be proud of. So what I'm saying is that we should go back to our values. It is only then that we can recapture some of these fast eroding values and then build a better society.
Do you think that is still possible today?
Yes, it is possible. It is for us parents to do the needful, you know, to make sure that our grandchildren are not separated from our parents. When we do that, we maintain that close relationship, and it will be easier for the transmission of that family culture for which a particular family is known.
Okay. Now, let's look at the theme for this year's Grandparents' Day, which says, the theme says, His mercy is from age to age, and that is taken from a Bible passage of Luke chapter 1, verse 50. And again, we know that there are other scriptures that support us to honor our parents, you know, that our days may be long.
Exactly.
You know, can we x-ray the theme for this year's celebration?
Well, in the first place, this theme was chosen in order to connect to the theme, you know, to the celebration of the World Youth Day in Lisbon, which is starting today and will last up to the 6th of August. You know, the theme highlights the importance of dialogue between the older and younger generations. like I said, it is through this dialogue that we can build a humane and fraternal society. It is through this dialogue that we can pass on, that the elders can pass on, faith. It is through this dialogue that the elders can transmit family values and culture. So it is very, very important for us to maintain this dialogue. So the theme of this year is very apt because it prompts us to go back to the basics and to ensure that there is an unbroken relationship between the elderly and the grandchildren.
All right, now let's look at the issue of, let's come to a larger society. Now, we know that what is happening, apart from the family sector, what is happening in the political scene, what is happening in our various offices, some elders, in quote, seem to have broken the walls of trust between them and these younger ones that are supposed to look up to them. For instance, in Nigeria, we see elders loot our economy. We see elders rig elections. We see elders falsify documents, and these younger ones are looking up to them. That was why I asked that question. Is there any possibility of getting it right again? Because some of them are in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s, they are elders. And, they keep rotating in the political circle from now and then. And these younger ones are looking up to them. What do you think, is going to be happening in the minds of these younger ones, especially when you are telling them to look up to elders? They will tell, because some of them are in their families.
Exactly.
Some of them have younger ones. Some of them have, most of them, all of them have families. So the younger ones are also looking up to them. So what do you think is happening? Because if my own child, I'm not a politician, if my own child should tour the part of my family and we go into the larger society to meet people that that don't have elders that show them good examples, and they come together, what do you think will happen to the society?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, when we talk about the elderly, we are emphasizing the good ones. Okay. Because throughout history, we know there are good and bad elders. Even from the Bible, we know the good elders, and they include Noah, they include Eliezer, and we also know the bad ones from biblical accounts, okay, like the judges that maliciously accused Susanna. So when we are talking about elderly and trying to get, values from them, of course, we are talking about positive, those who are positive role models. We are not talking about the bad ones. We are talking about those. Yes, granted, there are elders that are corrupt, but there are still very many elders in our society.
And what challenge does that pose? That's my question. What the challenges it poses to the society at large? Because these people will still meet with other children that came from families that have good elders, coming up to meet with elders from the wrong side. So what's the challenge? The challenge it poses to the society?
Well, one thing I want you to go home with is that if you train a child well, it will be difficult for that child to depart from the virtues he or she learned from home. So the most important thing is to parent our children well, teach them what is right, be good role models as parents. When we do that, it will be very difficult for them to depart from that which they know.
All right, the program is Good Morning Anambra, World Day for Grandparents, and the elderly theme, His mercy is from age to age, taken from Luke chapter 1, verse 50. And I still have in the studio Chizoba Nabo, who is the president, Civilization of Love Foundation. We take a short break here. Let's feel the pulse of the masses. The program returns after now. Do join us again.
Anyị nwe n'onwe anyị na-eto eto kwesịrị ka anyị na-afụ ndị okenye n'anya. Ọ bụrụ sọnsọ oge Krismas anyị bukọrọ je bunye fa. O kwesịrị like etu a na-akọ ọrụ ugbo ịjụọ ndị be si ke ma ọ mee kedu ka eke si eme. Ọ sị anyị achọkwara ihe dị etu inyere aka okonye ọrụ. Ya o ejiwe okonye ọrụ ma maka echi ka o nwere ife ọ ga-eri. Ịfụsị na ife na-enye ezi abụsị ụmụ obele ife ọ ga-ejizi wee na-egote ụmụ ụma gị na ụmụ kịrịkịrị ife ndị ọzọ. Mụ nwa na-asịkwa na ife ọ na-abụ mmadụ nwụọ ebute akpati na ubute akpati na penti ụlọ penti ya ịmara ife anwa ị ga-emelụ nne gị ma nna gị mee ya kịta ọka dị ndụ. So na ihe inye mmadụ mgbe ọ dị ndụ bụ ezigbo ọkwụkwa ka ịkwala ya. And ụka kwesịkwara ka a na-enye ndị nna anwa aka by ihe ọbụla a ga-eme. O nwere eziokwu a sị na aka rara ịra, o nwere ife ụka nwere dịka ego ma gị ndị anwa na-eto eto ndị na-enwere ka ọrafa enyelufe aka inwe ọ dị ọda. Anyị eziokwu na a na-ekwu okwu Chukwu mana onye agụụ na-agụ ya ejezibe enyi ozi ọma ọrụ inye ya ife orie ogenụ ntị n'okwu Chineke. Gọọmenti na onwe ha ga-enye aka, fa ga-enye ezigbo aka at least n'obodo ndị ọzọ anọkata asịsị chọrọ ndị over 70 something. Anyway na gọvanọ anyị na-ekenekwa ọ na-atara anyị kwa maka sometimes a na-afụ ka a sị gbakọ ọnụ n'ụka ebe asị na onwe ife ewotalụfa na gọvanọ na-emeta nke ọfụma nna ya ụkwafa fajisikwu ike na o nwekwa ndị ọ na-elube kemgbe eji ebido wee mebie. Science etu ne ma believe na ọ bụrụ onye chios na ọ ga-anọ 70 ọ ruo 90 ma 100.
Achọrọ m ka ndị gọọmenti na-enyere ndị okenye aka n'ihi na ndị okenye ha ataghị afụfụ mgbe ha kwesịrị ka ha taa afụ kịta ha kwesịrị ka ha na-eru uru. So agụrụgụrụ echeta ndị okenye ka a na-enyere ha aka any amount ọbụla eji enye ha ka ha ji na-elive fine ka ndụ ha wee na-anọkwu. Maka afụfụ ụmụaka dị na-ata today ọ dị too much. So gọọmenti kwesịrị na consider ma churches sef a na-eme collection maka these old people. A na-emere their own special collection.
Ọ bụrụ sọnsọ oge Krismas anyị bukọrọ je bunye fa. O kwesịrị like etu a na-akọ ọrụ ugbo ịjụọ ndị be si ke ma ọ mee kedu ka eke si eme. Ọ sị anyị achọkwara ihe dị etu inyere aka okonye ọrụ. Ya o ejiwe okonye ọrụ ma maka echi ka o nwere ife ọ ga-eri. Ịfụsị na ife na-enye ezi abụsị ụmụ obele ife ọ ga-ejizi wee na-egote ụmụ ụma gị na ụmụ kịrịkịrị ife ndị ọzọ. Mụ nwa na-asịkwa na ife ọ na-abụ mmadụ nwụọ ebute akpati na ubute akpati na penti ụlọ penti ya ịmara ife anwa ị ga-emelụ nne gị ma nna gị mee ya kịta ọka dị ndụ. So na ihe inye mmadụ mgbe ọ dị ndụ bụ ezigbo ọkwụkwa ka ịkwala ya. And ụka kwesịkwara ka a na-enye ndị nna anwa aka by ihe ọbụla a ga-eme. O nwere eziokwu a sị na aka rara ịra, o nwere ife ụka nwere dịka ego ma gị ndị anwa na-eto eto ndị na-enwere ka ọrafa enyelufe aka inwe ọ dị ọda. Anyị eziokwu na a na-ekwu okwu Chukwu mana onye agụụ na-agụ ya ejezibe enyi ozi ọma ọrụ inye ya ife orie ogenụ ntị n'okwu Chineke. Gọọmenti na onwe ha ga-enye aka, fa ga-enye ezigbo aka at least n'obodo ndị ọzọ anọkata asịsị chọrọ ndị over 70 something. Anyway na gọvanọ anyị na-ekenekwa ọ na-atara anyị kwa maka sometimes a na-afụ ka a sị gbakọ ọnụ n'ụka ebe asị na onwe ife ewotalụfa na gọvanọ na-emeta nke ọfụma nna ya ụkwafa fajisikwu ike na o nwekwa ndị ọ na-elube kemgbe eji ebido wee mebie. Science etu ne ma believe na ọ bụrụ onye chios na ọ ga-anọ 70 ọ ruo 90 ma 100.
Achọrọ m ka ndị gọọmenti na-enyere ndị okenye aka n'ihi na ndị okenye ha ataghị afụfụ mgbe ha kwesịrị ka ha taa afụ kịta ha kwesịrị ka ha na-eru uru. So agụrụgụrụ echeta ndị okenye ka a na-enyere ha aka any amount ọbụla eji enye ha ka ha ji na-elive fine ka ndụ ha wee na-anọkwu. Maka afụfụ ụmụaka dị na-ata today ọ dị too much. So gọọmenti kwesịrị na consider ma churches sef a na-eme collection maka these old people. A na-emere their own special collection.
Onye na-enwere ezigbo ive ọ na-eme ọ na-anọ nne nso ma nne ya nso ọnwụ ibe dị mkpa ọ melie enye like ọ nọ njọ ma agụ otu onye li nne ya aka ma nne ya aka jee ọma agụ ọkwanụ ndị nọ n'ezi nnebe kawo nka ma nnaba kawo nka anọkọta ụlọ once in a while ma once in 2 months onye nwere o wetali nne na nne ya ka ọ wee na-egonite ive ọ bụrụ nrafu nne yi ọkpalijewele ebe a na ọma agụ nke echi meanwhile na ị nwekwara ezigbo ive ị na-eme ma ọ nwere ive ị na-eme nwulu nne yi ọ na-adụ mwute ma nne ya abịa na nke gọọmenti enwere ndị okenye nọ na-enwere onye na-enyebe na-amụtara nwa wadu suppose m na-achọ ụdị ndị ahụ abata n'obodo ọhụrụ mpala ive pagali ndị nnekwu mmadụ nọ n'obodo ọ bụrụ ba nwa iveba na-ewu eweli ya tinye na akpaba ọba bataba chọọ ndị okenye enyebe list aba ndị okenye dị pọ a ga-enyela aka
ndị okenye ahụ a ga na-enelu m anya at least ọ bụgodị a month a na-enyebe obere ego a ga-eji na-enelu onwe m anya like ndị okenye na-enwekwa ka ọ raba o nwere ndị nweleni ụmụba nwegoro nwee ndị ụmụba na-amụtara nwa ndị nwụta nwa ma ụmụ wee nwere ọ ga-adụ m ọ bụ m uche m nsị gọọmenti na-enyere iwe aka na-achọlụ obere iwe ka ha wee na-eneta onwe anya.
All right, we've felt the pulse of the masses. We've had them talk on what they think or the best way to take care of these elderly and grandparents. And of course, a lot of submissions from them. But in the studio here with Chizoba Nnabo, President, Civilian of Love Foundation. Okay, now, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ways, I think it's important for us to take a cue from what the respondents have actually said and talk about ways to take care of these grandparents. We've seen people suggest government should help because I know that government coming in at this point shows that some people don't even have money to take care of themselves, talk more of looking after their aged parents. So what's the best way to go about this so that these aged parents, will live longer for us, and of course, when they're dying, they die happily?
Yeah, okay. Let me start with the suggestions that our respondents made. They called on government to assist the elderly, and I support it. The government can provide a sort of social security for the elderly.
Do we really have statistics?
It's not difficult.
Or we should start.
It's not difficult at all to get the statistics because we all come from families, kindreds, and towns. So we can, through the town unions, we can get the statistics. So it is possible to get the statistics. It is possible for government to assist, by providing essential needs.
I like the statement of the second woman. He said, no matter how little it is.
Yes. It's very important. They can provide routine drugs that these people take. They can provide other needs, even food items. So government can do a lot in this regard. I believe, we have the resources to do that. We can cut down on excessive spending, in government, and then channel that money towards the upkeep of the elders is very important. Let me quickly say that elders can help a lot in peace building. In our societies, in our society, in our families, we know that elders help in resolution of or settlement of disputes. So they can actually help our courts and government, in that regard. So I believe they have so much to offer if we truly take care of them. And then on the part of families, families can also help by taking in these elderly people into their homes. Parents can do that, They can take them into their home and take care of them. That warmth alone is something that will, make them have a new lease of life.
All right, talking about World Day for Grandparents and the Elderly with Nnabo Chizoba in the studio. We've seen that taking care of our grandparents the way we should is very, very important, and it will help in nation building for a better society. And actually, this is where we are wrapping up the show for this morning. On behalf of all the crew in the studio, would like to thank you so much, Chizoba and Nabu, for being here this morning.
Thank you, Noye.
All right, my name is Nonye Nwokoye. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of Good Morning Anambra Show. Bye for now.